What is it about the good old days that we miss so much? Some of us miss Saturday morning cartoons, others miss the technology that we grew up with as kids or teenagers, or sometimes we just miss the vibe or aesthetic of a bygone era. But why is that exactly? And what is it that we truly miss? Before I go any further, I should make it perfectly clear that I am obviously not referring to the Make America Great Again people and their bigoted, misguided sense of nostalgia. That being said, there is a very real sense among people, generally adults past the age of 25, that the past was a simpler time. There seems to be something calming and steadying about the past. This sense is so strong that people will even long for an era that preceded their own birth, just because they have a strong inkling and inclination that said previous time period was either better or simpler. Of course, sometimes there are legitimate reasons to miss aspects of the past. As things change, they don't always change for the better. Whether we're talking about planned obsolescence in devices we purchase today, or having decreased control over certain products that we ostensibly own, capitalism sucks, some aspects of the past are in fact objectively simpler and even better. But it's obviously not that simple. If it were, we would not be yearning for a past that sometimes preceded our own existence. It's as if we crave to be coddled by the warm embrace of yesteryear and, ironically, leave the present and future behind. There are a few obvious and simple explanations. One is that we often just miss our youth or childhood. After all, when we say, "it was a simpler time," are we really referring to a specific era? Or isn't just that life is simpler when we were younger? As a child, we have the luxury, at least those of us who didn't grow up in abject poverty, of not having to worry about the everyday stresses of life. We did not have to worry about paying bills, taxes, going to work, or any of that. On top of which, the younger you are, the more friends you likely have. The simplicity and untainted cynicism of childhood is truly a unique and beautiful experience for those of us lucky enough to have experienced it. And even as young adults, we still are relatively carefree, and depending on our situations, may still have some of the unburdened levity of childhood mixed with some of the independence of adulthood. The older we get, the more this is stripped away from us. Most of us begin to realize that many of our childhood aspirations will likely never come to fruition. We learn that the world is not the meritocracy that we were told it was. Added to this, we tend to become more politically aware and realize that we live in a system rigged against the working class, and either become filled with rage or complete apathy because we individually feel helpless to do anything about it. There is also the explanation that we quite literally yearn for the certainty of a past time. While no one perfectly recalls the past, we pretty much have a good sense of what happened and what we miss about the past. The future will constantly remain filled with uncertainty, regardless of how well we try to plan for it. Recalling and yearning for the past also gives us the opportunity to retroactively cherish what we may have taken for granted when we were younger. Sitting in front of the TV with your sibling, watching Saturday morning cartoons, may have felt like something to do at the time, just to pass time, but perhaps now as an adult, waking up on the weekend, you find yourself logging in to catch up on work that you haven't gotten to yet, hoping to somehow break the vicious cycle of working late every day. If you could just catch up to everything. The harsh realities of our current everyday existence makes us appreciate a time when our lives were simpler and didn't constantly revolve around how productive we have been or might have been that day. Nostalgia is rarely, if ever, about the thing or time period itself that we miss, but rather what that thing or period in time represented in our lives. We know it's something that we can never get again. Of course, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and our feelings of nostalgia for a thing can just be about a thing. When I rewatch Breaking Bad for the fifth time, it isn't necessarily because I subconsciously yearn to relive that period of time in my life. The show is just really that good. That being said, there is something to be said about having so-called comfort shows that you indulge in when you want to recreate a specific mood. But why does this happen in the first place? Why do we all become so disillusioned with adulthood and the real world that we find ourselves retreating to the comforting arms of nostalgia? Are we all just overgrown babies who need to suck it up, buttercup, and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and roll with the punches? Maybe. But maybe also, capitalism sucks. Yes, of course this video is about capitalism. What did you expect? But let's talk about it. Alienation, as explained by Marx himself, refers to the reality that workers face living in a capitalist society wherein work becomes a means to an end. That is, earning a wage merely to survive, as opposed to engaging in fulfilling activity. This results in us feeling powerless and alienated from ourselves and even fellow workers. I talked about this some more in my video called Why Your Job Sucks, and nobody watched it, so please go check it out. But anyway, alienation doesn't stop there. It spills over into our personal lives as well. In a world where our worth is often measured by our productivity, we start to lose sight of what it means to genuinely enjoy life. We're constantly chasing the next big thing, be it a promotion, a bigger house, or the latest tech gadget. But as we chase these materialistic dreams, we often forget to live in the moment, to appreciate the simpler pleasures of life that we enjoyed in our past. Think about it. When was the last time you just sat down and did nothing? No checking emails, no scrolling through social media, just enjoying the present moment. It's hard, isn't it? That's because we've been conditioned to believe that doing nothing is unproductive, and being unproductive is almost a sin in our capitalist society. Nostalgia, in this sense, becomes a form of resistance. It's a way of pushing back against this relentless drive for productivity. It's us longing for a time when life wasn't just about work, money, and success. It was about friendships, adventures, and simple joys. It's about wanting to return to a time when our lives felt more authentic, more connected to others, and more in tune with our true selves. That being said, let's briefly examine the psychology of nostalgia for a bit. Research has shown that nostalgia can actually be beneficial for our mental health. It can boost our mood, increase self-esteem, and even provide a sense of continuity and meaning in life. When we reminisce about the good old days, we're not just escaping our current problems, we're also reminding ourselves of who we are, where we came from, and what we've achieved. But nostalgia has a dark side too. It can sometimes lead us to idealize the past, to forget its flaws and overemphasize its positives. This can cause us to unwittingly warp our own sense of reality, where the past seems perfect and the present can never measure up. It is important to remember that while the past had its joys, it also had its challenges. Life wasn't necessarily better back then, it was just different. So how do we balance this? How do we appreciate the past without idealizing it? How do we live in the present without constantly longing for a bygone era? The key lies in finding joy in the present. It's about creating new memories, new traditions, and new joys that are just as fulfilling as those from the past. It's about connecting with people, engaging in activities that bring us genuine happiness, and living a life that's aligned with our values and passions. It's also about dismantling capitalism and seizing the means of production. And it's also about recognizing that nostalgia, while comforting, is not a solution to our current problems. It can provide a temporary escape, but ultimately, we need to face our present challenges head on. We need to work towards creating a society where people don't feel the need to escape into the past, because their present is just as fulfilling, just as meaningful, and just as joyful. I think it's fair to say that nostalgia is a complex emotion. It combines a little bit of happiness, sadness, longing, and reflection. It's a reminder of our past joys and a commentary on our present struggles. It's a sign that we're yearning for something more, something deeper, something more authentic in our lives. And while it's important to cherish our memories, it's equally important to create a present that we won't feel the need to escape from. So the next time you find yourself longing for the good old days, take a moment to appreciate the memory, but also take a step to make your present just as memorable. After all, today's moments are tomorrow's nostalgia.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, someday these will be the good old days.